Welcome to the Sharma show. Today on the show, we're going to talk about a little something different. Today on the show, we're going to talk about the bias that exists in America in the media towards its conservatives. And even though there are differences between conservatives in India and conservatives in America, I feel like the bias that exists in the media and in universities towards these conservatives is pretty strikingly similar. So I want to talk about that a little bit. My name is Sharma. Welcome to the Sharma show. Hello, and welcome. Welcome to another edition of the Sharma Show. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you. Now, again, if you enjoy what we do in the show, please make sure to subscribe to the show's channel. I would really appreciate it. And if you're new to the show, welcome. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you do, make sure to subscribe. All right, so today's story is a little different from the kind of stories that I usually do, because the kind of stories that I usually do sort of involve me talking about things that happened in India or things that happen internationally that affect India. And this story is a little different, but kind of similar in the same way that I think what I'm talking about is something that does affect India as well. So what happened recently is that there was an article in the New York Times titled "Trump is a Racist," period. And this, I presume, is in response to a recent comment that he made during a secret meeting where apparently he called some countries shitholes. And what I think he apparently said was, why do we need more people from shithole countries like Haiti? And why can't we have more people from countries like Norway? So again, like I said, the reason I decided to cover this article is because I see a very strong bias in the media towards conservatives in America. And I see that same bias in the media towards conservatives in India. And like I've said before, there are differences in conservatives between India and in America. But the thing is that outlets like the New York Times and often many mainstream international outlets have long held a bias against India and have long portrayed India in a negative light. They've often portrayed Hindus as some sort of backward, oppressive people. And that strategy has now been co-opted so well among the domestic media in India, and that same bias is now permeated through domestic media in India. Now, talking about the New York Times again, the New York Times has done this about India previously as well. They published a couple of articles about Mr. Modi and about India, how India has become very intolerant ever since Modi got elected to power, that are completely incorrect and that are very, very biased. So I provided the link to those articles below in the description. So if you want to check those out, I would highly recommend you check those out and kind of see the bias for yourself. Like I said, it has become this thing that every Hindu opinion and every Hindu tradition is fundamentalist and patriarchal. And now it's become that same situation in America, where everything white is patriarchal, everything white is racist, everything white is oppressive. To talk about this particular article that I was mentioning earlier, let me talk about that really quickly. So in the article, the author's pretty much made up his mind that Trump is a racist. And he also goes on to say that it is not a stretch that Trump is a white supremacist. I think it is a stretch, because do I think that Trump has some racist comments and Trump has some racist tendencies? Yes. Do I think that the shithole comment was bad? Definitely. Because, that's not very presidential. That's not something that a president should ever be caught saying. Whether in public, whether in private, it doesn't really matter. People are saying that he was insinuating that, these countries, because there are bad places to live, the people there are then by that same logic, bad people. Now, if he was making that assumption, I think that's really bad. I think that is really racist. But I don't believe that was the assumption that he was making, because I don't think that his entire life philosophy is governed by racism, as a lot of the people in the media and a lot of the outlets and all of the articles will have you believe. Now, it is very unfortunate that he called Haiti a shithole, and that's something very wrong, and that's something that he should apologize for if he did say so. But in the same interview, in the same clip, he also says that he would rather have a lot more people from South Korea come to the country. Last I checked was yesterday, so it was 24 hours ago, and things might have changed since then. But last I checked, South Korea was in Asia, and South Korea was full of Asians, and Asians are not white people. So I don't think that his whole entire life philosophy and his whole entire worldview is racist. I think he's a guy that could really benefit from keeping his mouth shut in certain situations and could really benefit from staying off Twitter a little more. But I don't think he's an inherently racist human being, because there's a tweet I saw on Twitter the other day when in 1986 he actually received an award for diversity and tolerance. And also the guy was like a Democrat till 5 minutes ago. So the thing is, I've had people that I know really well, people that I really like, people that I get along with really well, people that I call very good friends of mine. I've had people who have asked me or said some things to me that can be construed as racist or that can be construed as bigoted, but I know for a fact that those people are not racist or bigoted. For example, when I was in New Zealand, I had a very good friend of mine ask me a question, completely straight-faced and completely seriously. He asked me this. He said, "Hey Sham, do people have refrigerators in India?" I know for a fact that the guy is not racist. He's just a little out of touch. And is that question a little bit racist? Maybe it is. But the thing is that the person that is asking that question is not a racist human being. His worldview, his life philosophy is not a racist philosophy. So I laughed and I said, yeah, mate, we have refrigerators. And where I live in Delhi, our refrigerators are probably nicer than yours. And that was that. And so there's a difference between saying something racist, either through ignorance or through, trying to crack a dumb joke or through a poor choice of words. So there's a difference between these things. And there's a difference between having your every life decision and your every comment governed by a racist philosophy, which thinks that certain races are better than other races. That is a true racist. That is a true bigot. And it exists. It exists in society. And the problem is the media never fails to make that distinction. So it will lump a large number of people who are not racist but have said something maybe a little dumb. They will lump those people in with these people who actually have racist views. And I don't think that's right. And I think that hurts the cause of people who are trying to fight racism. Now, I have a theory about why the media and the kind of establishment universities, they've turned so hard against their own people. I kind of have a theory on that as well. So for decades, the West, particularly in Europe and America, they've encouraged their media, they've encouraged their research organizations, they've encouraged their universities to portray countries in Asia, for example, India, in a bad light, because they've for some reason felt that, a weaker Asia will always ensure that Europe and America stay strong. I can speak for India, like I said, and that's definitely been the case. The Western media has often and almost always portrayed Hindus in a bad light, like some kind of backward, oppressive people that oppress women, that oppress minorities, and so on and so forth. And I feel like what's happened here is that old saying is that if you raise snakes in your backyard, don't expect them to bite only your neighbors, because they're snakes. Now, I feel like that whole postmodernist, that whole communist infrastructure of the media, of the universities, of these research organizations, that virus has now completely turned on its own people. And it used to be the case in the media that everything Hindu is bad and patriarchal and oppressive. And now what's happened is that that's turned around to people in the US, where everything that is white is racist, everything that is white is oppressive and patriarchal. And it is important that people in the US, and particularly conservatives in the US, realize what is happening here and realize that this ecosystem is now out to eat everyone, and that Hindus are not some foreign, strange culture that needs to be saved or that needs to be subdued. In fact, Hindus are quite possibly the greatest allies that Americans and American conservatives can have, because Hindus share many of the same ideals that Americans hold very dear, like in terms of freedom and liberty. I very strongly believe that India is a democracy, and India is a strong democracy because India is a majority Hindu nation. Because Hindu culture promotes diversity, and Hindu culture embraces diversity and a diversity of opinions and a diversity of ways of being and living. And this system and this philosophy is extremely conducive to a successful democratic system. So I feel like it is time now. It is time that India and the US fights this bias together. It is time that Americans and American conservatives and Hindus, they realize what a great alliance they can have in the battle against this postmodernist communist brigade. It's because Hindus are some of the worst sufferers from this postmodernist communist brigade in India. Because I feel like both of those countries suffer from very similar problems. There's a great organization in the United States that's doing a lot of good work on this. It's called the American Hindu Foundation, dedicated to teaching Americans about, educating Americans about Hindus and Hinduism and Hindu way of life. The link to their website is provided in the description below as well, so go have a look. And yeah, and that's today's show. And I feel like I want to put this question out to you as well. Do you think Americans and do you think Hindus make very good natural allies, just the way I think Israelis and Hindus make great natural allies? I certainly believe so. I would love to hear your opinion, because I totally think that in alliance, we're able to fight this kind of postmodernist, communist media, university infrastructure. We're able to fight this a lot better than if we did it by ourselves. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this matter. Please get involved in the comment section below, and please let me know your opinions. And again, if you enjoyed today's episode and if you enjoyed what we're doing on the show today, please make sure to like the show. Please make sure to tell as many people as you can about the show and invite them to come watch the show. And also, if you're not already, subscribe to the show's channel. All right, thanks very much for watching today's episode. Again, I will be back next week if I'm not doing a live stream. If I'm not, I'll be back next week, and I will see you on Monday. And until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon.